To the brave men and women who stood up for freedom, who answered the call and fought for our nation, who paid the ultimate price and never came back. To the American soldier, we thank you. To the mothers and fathers who raised a hero, to the brothers and sisters with an empty space, to the sons and daughters who have only memories, to the wives and husbands who bear the void with pride, to all who've lost a soldier they love, no gift could repay your sacrifice. No tribute could match our admiration. No word can contain our gratitude, but still, it deserves to be said. We remember you, we salute you, and we honor you today.
Wow, we are so blessed to live where we live. Video gets me. Well, welcome. We are so glad that you guys are here. I would like to also welcome those that are in Cleveland and those that are joining us online. It is such an honor to be with you guys here this Memorial Day service. And so we've been talking a lot about drifting here, and you know, I find myself in this pace of life, right, where it's like we have this longing to hit a pause button, right? We're so busy with everything. We've got all of this noise and all of this busy, chaotic life. And what would it really be like if we could really experience God's peace? Do you ever feel like our schedule rule our lives and pull us away from the very things that we were intended, or our paths that we were intended to follow? It's sort of like we're out in this open ocean, right? And we're just out there drifting along, and we're not sure exactly what direction to go, but we have in our boat all of these things that are like attaching to our boat, right? And it's pulling us in this direction and that direction, and there's just so much going on that we're just not sure of what to do or where to go, right? We have so much in our life, right? Our work commitments, our school commitments, our children's activities, and all of that goes along with life. And so we see this over and over, right? It seems like there's just not enough time to juggle it all. Anybody been there? Yes. I've been there this week. I tell you, it's been a crazy week. And so what if there was a way that we could order our lives that would bring us that peace, right? That fulfillment, that joy, that excitement, free of worry. What if we could connect with Jesus the way that he intended for us to? Right? For some of us, it may be for the very first time. And for some of us, it may be that we're wanting to deepen our relationships. We're wanting to deepen. So what if we could experience his presence? What if we could experience and hear his voice? So years ago, Billy and I, we had work life that consumed us, and we had our kids' schedules that consumed us, and the sports schedules, and all of that going on. And it was like we were in that boat on the open water with so many different things tugging at us. You know, the financial pressures of life, the chaos and those things that happen just on a day-to-day basis with the crisis that comes up day after day. And so it was like that. We just over and over and over, we had this feeling like it was Groundhog's Day, right? We were just going to wake up and do it over again. Anybody been there? Yes. I see some heads nodding. And so with everything pining for my attention, how in the world was I to give God my attention with everything going on? And so you may have been there too, and perhaps you're there now. And so Pastor Patrick, he opened up this message about drift, and he said a growing number of people describe themselves as being spiritual, or but not religious, right? Spiritual but not religious, and they believe in a higher power, and they just don't want anything to do with religion. So if you missed last week's message, I just encourage you to go back and listen to it, because it was just such a good intro to this. And so he concluded with a reference out of Matthew 6:6, and he talked about how going into your closet and inviting God into those moments, into that conversation that you're continually having in your heart, in your head, right? So he said, this is the invitation. So today, the question is, what happens after the invitation? Does God speak? So today we're going to talk about this word called solitude. So automatically, a lot of us think that solitude is a negative word. We think of solitary confinement. We think of punishment. Young lady, go to your room. We think of isolation, right? This thing of being alone. So there's so many reasons why humans don't want to be alone. And even though sometimes we say that we just want to be alone, do we really? Right? So it's like the mom that goes to the bathroom and you got the 3 little kids and the dog and the other dog and the cat or whatever kind of right there at the door, and you're like, just leave me alone for a minute. But do we really want to be alone? So there are a few reasons why I think that we really don't want to be alone. That we have this thing for a social connection, right? And social connection, being with others, provides a sense of belonging, connection, and validation. And there's also that we have this emotional support, right? Having someone to listen as we share our feelings and experiences helps us reduce the stress and anxiety, right? That's the girlfriend on the couch with the ice cream. Maybe the guys in the room are going, oh, I don't want to get together and share my feelings. But yeah, experiences, yeah, when I caught that big fish, I want to share about it. So we have this person that's there for the emotional support. And sometimes it's just distraction, right? So distraction, as long as we're busy, then we don't have to think or overthink our worries, troubles, and thoughts. Yeah, just keep me running. I don't have to deal with whatever I have back here, right? Just keep me going, and then I don't have to worry about this. So as long as we're busy, we don't have to think or overthink our worries, our troubles. But it's been said, many of us would rather do something over nothing, even if that something was a negative. Let me repeat that. Many of us would choose to do something over doing nothing, even if that something was a negative. We want to be distracted. And then there's this other thing of we just don't want to be alone because we're afraid of what may happen. What may happen when we're alone, right? We need someone to have us or be with us, or what to keep us in check. The internal triggers, the boredom, the cravings, the addictions, those things when we get alone by ourselves with our thoughts, right? It's leading us down this road where we're like, oh, I just need somebody along with me to keep me in check. Then fear of missing out, FOMO, right? Being with others provides a sense of participation and involvement in activities. So what if our perspective was mistaken? What if I told you that solitude is not just about being alone? What if I told you that solitude is more about being with someone instead of being alone? Solitude is about being with someone more than being alone. So there's a lot of leaders mentioned in the Bible who practiced solitude. And so one of the great leaders, Moses, I spoke about him the first time that I got to preach, and he's one of my favorites along with Joshua. But so there's Moses, and he's found in Exodus. And so Exodus is the second book of the Bible right after Genesis. A lot of us start with reading the Bible, and we go through Genesis, then we hit Exodus, and then Leviticus. We're like, oh, I'm out. So we probably, if you've attempted to read the Bible, you've probably read about Moses. But Moses was responsible for leading the Hebrews out of Egypt. And whenever they got outside, they were in this encampment, this tent encampment, and so many thousands of people. And so Moses would actually take a tent outside of the camp, and he would pitch that tent. And this was the cool thing. They called this the tent of meetings. And so while Moses was there was this pillar of cloud that would come. And it was where God would meet him face to face. And he would speak with him. And so all of the people there, they would see this and know that God was there speaking with Moses face to face. And then there's Elijah. Elijah was a prophet, and he got to speak on behalf of God, right? He got to inform the people of what God had said, but there was a lot of turmoil going on, and he found himself in this cave, and he's crying out to God, and he's like, I'm the only one. And then God met him there, and he whispered to him. And then there's Daniel. So Daniel, he was known for praying and fasting and getting away with the Lord and spending that solitude time, or that time in solitude. And he faced so much persecution because of what he believed in. And so his faith was tested. And you may have heard the story about Daniel being thrown into the fire. But we know that the fire did not consume Daniel, and he was not alone. But today I want to talk to you and let us take a look at Jesus and what he modeled for us. And so in Luke 5:16 it says, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. You see, if Jesus found solitude as an important practice, I believe that we should too, that we should pay close attention. And that in the beginning of Jesus' ministry, so this was right after he's being, in the Jordan. And so after his baptism, he decides to take 40 days in the wilderness by himself alone. And this was a time for him to be able to prepare for ministry. And so several scriptures it also says where he got alone before he chose the 12 disciples. And so there was also a time where he fed 5,000 that he withdrew. And then there was this so many preaching and teaching and ministry and healing missions that he was a part of, that he had to take some time and withdraw. So he withdrew to lonely places. And so let us take a look at some scriptures before Jesus was crucified on the cross. And so it says, Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, pray that you will not fall into temptation. He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down, and prayed. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done. An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. And it's important for us to know that Jesus experienced some of the same emotions and the same struggles and challenges as we do. And over you see him doing this practice of pulling away to be with his Father, because he had something really important to accomplish. He had to get away to align his will to God's purposes. And he knew the importance of having this relationship with God the Father, that he would pull from him and that he would learn from him and that he would be able to carry out the very things that he needed to do. And so we learn from Jesus the practice of solitude. The practice of solitude is intentional, right? It's that intentionality that we have to do to put forth to be able to say, you know what? I'm taking a pause, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to withdraw, and I'm going to pray. But although that we respond to different ways of being or having times alone, it's a discipline that I find that we can find fulfillment and freedom. And so you see, without withdrawing from whatever's going on to encounter his presence, that's what we have to do. And so God says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. That's a promise for us. Draw near to me and I will draw near to you. And so here's the thing. It only requires for us to be still and silent. Still and silent. Do you know how hard it is for me to stand in this place right here? Very hard. Just a little side note, we had talked about public speaking before, and I have this nervous habit where I do this, and I do this, and I do this. But isn't that true of us, right? We have this hard time of finding this stillness. I mean, we've got so much going on in our lives. And doesn't it make you kind of cringe on the inside a little bit? Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a doctor's office and you're sitting there and you have your phone and it's like you're watching people in the room and you just see them kind of check their phone, put it down. Check their phone, put it down. Because nobody in the room knows each other. And so it's that moment of silence that's awkward for people. And, you know, it's just like a little safety thing. But being still is not something that comes natural for many of us. And so I think of, this where we have this ongoing thing and this ongoing need to speak, right? In prayer, there's times where we are making our petitions and our requests to the Lord. And we're going on and on and on. And I think of sometimes like a little babbling kid where, as a parent, you're just waiting for the moment for them to stop so that you can kind of give them the explanation or the very thing that they need, but they're going on and on and on and on. And then you're like, and then, and you're just waiting for that moment, that moment to just, so that they could pause, that you can go, honey, it's okay, we got this. But they're like, yeah. I think of my friend right here sitting out in the front row. So, as she's nudging her daughter. But learning the practice of being silent and waiting on God is hard. What are we waiting for, though? Right? We're waiting for him to speak. And we're waiting for him to reveal. And we're waiting for him to give direction. And we're waiting for him to give clarity. There's so many benefits to solitude. For one, for me, absolutely. This is it. It's like an attitude adjustment, right? So I have so many voices that are going on and so many demands and too much activity. And doesn't it cause us to wear thin and become a little bit edgy? A little bit reactive instead of being present? So the fruit of solitude is increased sensitivity and compassion for others. So that's one of the benefits. We become sensitive to other people. It's not just about us and our drama. We're settled down inside. We have compassion for others. And this other benefit is, right, it's I need to intentionally check out so that I don't emotionally burn out. Right? So I'm just going to take a little pause in my little day-to-day thing so I can kind of get myself in check so that I don't burn out. I need to intentionally check out so I don't mentally and emotionally burn out. And here's another benefit. So solitude aligns our will to God's purpose and direction for our lives, just as it did Jesus, right? And as a result, we are no longer drifting. So we don't have to worry about all of the day ins and day outs, that we could just come to the Lord and just say, I want to spend some time with you. I need to realign. And so I know this, it's like a lot of times if we rely on our own selves for the answers, we get it wrong, or at least I do. So who are we seeking? Who are we seeking to find the answers from? And so many times we look for other sources, right? And the difference is this. Our Lord, Yahweh, he is living and breathing. And he is a God who speaks to us. You know, there's so many different things out there that are pulling for us, and in the spiritual realm of things, it's like where people say, well, I'm spiritual, and you know, I practice this and that. And I look at some of the things. I was in the nail salon just the other day, and you know, I look at this statue, and there is a banana and some other little things, and I'm just sitting there confused because I'm like, what is this statue going to do? Like, really? Our God is alive, and he speaks to us. But it's those moments of intentionality where we pull away and we are with him. And I love what Richard Foster says this. He says this in his book. He says, but if we possess inward solitude, we do not fear being alone, for we know that we are not alone. God is with us. And so if prayer is the invitation into the conversation, I believe solitude is where we wait to encounter God. Let me say that again. If prayer, our requests, our petitions, all of those things, if that's our invitation for God into the conversation, solitude is where we wait. Waiting in stillness. We're waiting to encounter. And in that waiting, he answers. And that's where we get to experience his presence. And that replaces all of our reasons, all the reasons that I gave you before of not wanting to be alone. So maybe this list looks a little bit more like this. Social connection. So social connection. Jesus wants us to share our burdens, or Jesus wants to. He is the very reason why he gave his life. Let me say that again. Jesus wants to be in relationship with us, and it was the very reason why he gave his life. And so emotional support. Jesus wants us to share our burdens with him. It says, cast all your burden upon the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never allow the righteous to be shaken. Okay? Distraction. We don't have to worry about being alone, because Jesus wants to fix our eyes on the things above, not on the earthly things, and he becomes our focus. What may happen, right? We don't have to worry about what may happen because Jesus, God always provides a way out from temptation, always. We just got to pay attention. FOMO. So being with Jesus is the greatest experience and makes others want to be with him too. The greatest experience. And people look at you and go, what's different about him? What's different about her? Why is she shiny? Why is she so nice? She's been with Jesus. And when you spend time with Jesus, makes other people want to spend time with you. Makes other people want to go, oh, I want to find that Jesus that you know. Safety and security. So God can be trusted with our innermost being, and he is our creator and loves all of us. And so he is our refuge. He's the one that we can run to and be that little kid that's babbling on and on and on. And God's like, come on. Just sit here with me a minute. Be still and know that I'm God. I'm going to just sit here in this moment. And I'm going to strengthen you. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to love you. That's who our God is. So ways to be intentional. So how do you put into practice? How do you put into practice the solitude in our crazy, productive lives, right? All the things that we have listed out, all the things that we've got to accomplish, all the things that are pulling at us, all the things. How do we make time to be with God? Do we want it? So here's some ways to be intentional. It first takes, start with small moments. I remember this one time I signed up for this 24-hour prayer time at our church, and I was like, I don't know that I can do 24 hours. And like, oh, just do 2. I'm like, oh, I think I could do 2. And I went ahead and took some of the AM hours because I'm kind of a little bit of a night owl, and so I'm like, oh, 12 to 2, I can do that. And I just thought, can I do 2 hours? 2 hours of prayer? You got to be kidding. So they put me in this room, and they have this Bible laid out and everything's just nice and cozy in there. And I'm like, oh my, I'm probably going to fall asleep. But I tell you, that 2 minutes, or I'd say 2 hours, felt like 2 minutes to me. Start small, just small moments of your day. And you can even do it in a crowd. I know that Jesus modeled a lot of times where he could pull away from maybe the disciples, or pull away from all of the people that were following after him, and heal me and do this for me. And he had those moments. But if we were to think about maybe if it was like first thing in the morning, that you could say, okay, I'm going to have my prayer time, but then there's going to be, I'm going to save just a small moment, like 5 minutes, and before I go, amen, I'm out, I'm going to listen for God's voice and intentionally say, God, I'm listening for your voice. And so the other thing is just find a quiet spot. Some of us may have a little bit more quieter homes. Some of us may have smaller children that seems impossible or what. But find a spot. Find a spot maybe at your house, maybe outside. I love to go outside. I'll just sit outside for a long time, just looking at nature and just thinking about God, praying, and it's just in those moments of just withdrawal. Where I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes clutter distracts me. I have to get into a space that is just nice and clean, and I don't have to worry about the checklist of anything, and it's just, okay, God, this is my little spot with you. I'm going to pray, but I'm going to take some moments just to be quiet and listen for you. And some other ways is just give God permission. Give him permission to search your heart. And in those moments, I tell you, things are going to pop up, and things are going to be maybe even troublesome for you. It may be a thought of something in your past. It may be something that you're dealing with right now, presently. Ask God, or give him permission to search your heart. God, I'm here. I'm waiting. And you know me more than I even know me. And you know what's best for me. And you're not some little idol God that's some kind of statue. You're a God that speaks. You are a God that knows. And you are a God that knows what I need to do. You're the one that knows what direction I need to go. You're the one that knows what direction I'm paddling, rowing. I'm rowing. This is rowing. And I tell you, this is another thing. Don't try to be productive. Don't go in with an agenda. I mean, that's the prayer time. That's the part where you're like, okay, God, I'm listing out everything. This is all the things, whatever. But in solitude, it's not that time. It's the time just to wait and listen. And just like he showed up with Moses face to face, which I tell you, if I ever had that rural moment, yeah, I'd be flat on my face. But God shows up in so many different ways, and he whispers. He is sometimes loud and audible. Different experiences for different different people. But it's not just some, like I said, a statue that has a banana sitting there that's going to rot all day. It's funny. But then also, the other thing is that we're listening for his voice. And sometimes it may take a little bit longer for us to hear. But God says, remember, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. So, in doing so, we can expect for Jesus to be right where we are, just as we are. And that, my friends, that's where transformation takes place. And that's where we're no longer drifting, because we're aligning ourselves to his will. And we're getting that clarity that we need. And we're knowing what direction to set out forth. And in doing so, man, it's the greatest experience of all times. All times. Can I pray for you? Okay. Heavenly Father, I feel like so many times we are so full of words. That sometimes we just need to be quiet. That sometimes we just need to wait. And Father, that waiting is hard sometimes. And Lord, I just pray right now that if there is anyone watching online, anyone watching over in Cleveland, or anyone here in this room, Father, you have our attention. Would you speak? Would you heal? Would you draw us closer? Would you reveal yourself so that someone in this room may know that you are God? That you are a living, breathing, caring, compassionate God. And Lord, as we leave this place, I pray that you would take and just put on our minds your ways. That you would align us to your ways. The silence. It's where you meet us. It's where we can drop all the pressures of life and know that you are a God that is our refuge, and where we can draw strength, and we have that communion with you.